Go with everything's working the way it's supposed to.
Perfect. I'll just step back from the mic a tad.
Do you want
testing?
Do you want it more in your cans?
The cans are fine.
Okay.
Cans. Oh yeah.
So just before we went to press,
yes,
I saw the notification on the Discord that Alan NYC has 42 years today.
42 years. Wow.
I mean, we haven't even started yet, but I was just impressed by that because there are people that listen to this show that aren't even 42 years old. So he has more sobriety than some people have been alive, and many people have been alive.
Yeah, 42. That is some accomplishment, and it's like anything is possible because if you know anything about Alan's story... and I recommend go back a few episodes, and he was on a Monkster Meet the Monksters segment. But congratulations, Alan! It's you're a shining example of what's possible when all seems hopeless.
When you put the plug in the jug, and put the beetle in the needle. No, I don't know.
The jug has been plugged.
Plug the jug.
Yeah, I've got some other. Some
well, you know what? I just jumped
stuff.
the fucking gun.
Yeah, man.
This is the beginning part, and I'm not supposed to even be doing this. But you know what?
Hey.
I am on I just got back from California last night.
And boy, are my arms tired.
I just flew in from the West Coast.
The West Coast is the best coast.
Boy, are my arms tired. You hear anybody hear the dogs?
What dogs?
Yeah. Anyway, I'll talk more about Grant in a minute, but he was driving. We were coming to the end of our little tour around California that we did the other day, and he's like, I suppose there's not going to be a show this week. And I was like, you know what? God damn it. Grant has spent this entire weekend shuttling me and my kids around California. We are going to do a fucking show this week.
I can't wait to hear all about it.
Come hell or high water.
Yes.
Do you have something to say?
And we're back. Welcome to Recovery in the Middle Ages, a podcast about two middle-aged suburban dads and their pursuit of life, love, and recovery. I'm Nat X.
And I'm a very jet-lagged Mike R.
And boy, do we have a show for you. Today on RMA, it's the Monkster Meetup Mashup Roundup. Today, Mike is back from California after meeting up with Monksters on the left coast, and we are going to hear all about it. And we discuss all things going on in our crazy lives and recovery and so on. All this and more today on a very, very unlikely edition of RMA. And welcome back to the show, everyone.
Yes. Welcome, Monksters.
Hi.
Hi. How have you been?
Oh, great. You look great.
Thanks.
You look happy and energetic.
I am. I'm happy. I'm energetic. I had a cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee. First one of those I've had in a few days.
Yeah.
You playing with your mic?
Yeah.
And not fitting quite right?
No, it's perfect. I just noticed it's a bit wobbly.
I also have, there are articles that we're going to discuss.
Oh,
so
great.
It's really a news special. And you know what? It occurred to me after speaking to Grant that we have not been pushing Sober Linings Playbook enough on this
What's
show.
that again?
SoberLiningsPlaybook.com.
How do you say that? SoberLiningsPlaybook.com. Go right now.
Yeah.
Race to your computer machines.
Yes.
And key in. I hate it when people do this. www. Sober Linings. Like you don't need the dubs.
Right.
SoberLiningsPlaybook.com. It's all the news you need to know, curated by the great
Grant.
G Money Smooth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Editor at large of the RMA Newsroom, and we're so happy to have him.
He does a great job distilling all of the recovery and drug related information that's out there.
It's the hot topic these days.
Yeah. So go check it out.
It is the new cause.
You know what else
celeb
people should check out?
What?
They should check out Shatterproof and the Treatment Atlas hotline. Are you That or someone you know ready to look for treatment for addiction but don't know what type of treatment you need or where to turn to find it.
Absolutely.
It can be difficult to find trustworthy information.
Yep.
That's why the national nonprofit organization Shatterproof created treatmentatlas.org, a free and confidential online tool to help guide you to the care that you need. Treatment Atlas allows you to search by location, by insurance or payment options accepted, and even by services or types of medication assisted treatment provided. An easy-to-use 10-question assessment can help you determine the most appropriate treatment. Do I like horses? Then you go to find a place for horses.
Equine therapy.
Am I a drunken yogi? Then go find the yoga place.
I love it.
I don't know if you can search by yoga and equine therapy or Reiki, but maybe you should.
There's only one way to find out. Go to this.
Compare facilities based on how well they follow best practices in addiction treatment and based on reviews from people that have received treatment at a facility. 3 out of 10 did not like food, would not recommend, that kind of thing.
Right. You got to have good food at these things.
Treatment Atlas currently includes addiction treatment programs in 11 states. I'm not going to read them all. By the end of 2023, it will also include Wisconsin, Indiana, and Connecticut. So if you're fucked up in Wisconsin, Indiana, and Connecticut, go and see if your state's been added. So if you need help finding treatment, or if you'd like to leave a review for treatment that you've already received, go to treatmentatlas.org. If you need to tweak it a bit to make it fit your voice or to add some humor or to make it shorter, feel free. Love, Grant. I think he sent that to Dopey, and Dave didn't read it.
Yes, thank you,
he
Grant.
He should have read it. Can we just get this shit out of the way?
Which one?
When you know better, you do better.
But
But sometimes doing better depends on what tools are available to
Sure
you.
does.
As two men in recovery from alcohol use disorder, we know how difficult it can be. You know what? I need to go the next step up with the reading glasses, because I used to be here, and now I'm way the fuck out here.
These are not working for you anymore. Yeah.
Well, these are my distance glasses, so they don't work at all. I can't see a shit.
If you put them on, I'll hold the paper back by the wall.
That would be helpful. As two men in recovery from alcohol use disorder, we know how difficult it can be to seek help for a disease that's so stigmatized. If you're struggling to get sober, SoberLink can help. SoberLink's remote alcohol monitoring system was specifically designed to help in your recovery. It's not just some breathalyzer you buy at the store. Small enough to fit in your pocket and discreet enough to use in public or in front of your kids.
Kids love it.
SoberLink devices combine facial recognition, tamper detection, and real-time results, so friends and family know instantly that you're sober and working towards your recovery goals and not sneaking nips of the rubbing alcohol in the cabinet.
Or the vanilla.
Vanilla extract.
Yeah, vanilla extract. That was one of my favorites.
Who did I speak to recently who relapsed on vanilla extract?
I don't remember, but it's always fun to try and replace that and hope that your wife doesn't want to make cookies anytime soon.
Did Grant have a
When can I get to the supermarket to replace the empty bottle of vanilla?
Right. Or just you fill it up with water.
Yeah.
Like you used to do in the vodka bottles.
Yeah, these cookies don't taste right.
Yeah. Where's the vanilla flavor? This system really would have been a game changer for Nat and I during early recovery.
Definitely.
Every bit of accountability helps. Yeah, Nat really can't think of a better tool for tracking and sharing progress and rebuilding trust in relationships.
I can't.
Make 2023 a memorable one. Visit www. There we go again. Soberlink.com/middle-ages. Don't say it. To sign up and receive $50 off your device.
Do it.
By the way, Samantha, good old Samantha from SoberLink, sent us an email couple weeks ago wanting to re-up for the entirety of 2024.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she's like, and is the rate going to remain the same? And now
let's raise the price.
I'm thinking we should maybe raise the price because we have more listeners now.
That's true. And she wouldn't ask that if they didn't have more budget.
Yeah, and if they weren't already paying some, I think they probably were those recovery in the Middle Ages guys will take anything.
They'll do
let's
whatever.
Just throw them let's lowball them.
What do you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll raise it by 2.5% or something.
No.
We'll match the
inflation's 8. All
right, we got to match inflation at least.
At least.
Yeah.
If not, then some. Or some. I wonder how many SoberLink devices they've sold. They keep asking us for data, but we don't ask them for any data.
Yeah.
By the way, they want our data for the last few months.
Okay.
Can you send that to them?
I can.
Yeah.
They just want,
also, Shatterproof, by the way, sent us the long email about a partnership, and I sent it to you, and I'm waiting to hear back from you. But we should talk about that offline after the show. But it's basically there's no money that will be exchanged, but it's
well, it's a great cause, and I feel like we're working with Shatterproof, and it's great to be associated with.
And they'll drop our link, hopefully not to the website, all over the place, so that people can find us and listen to us and embrace our lifestyle. Yeah, our special lifestyle, our RMA lifestyle.
Right, it's the Middle Ages as a mindset.
That's right. So have we any soberversaries other than the great the great Alan NYC?
Yeah, we do. And thank you so much, Den Mother Melissa.
Yes, thank you,
who is
Melissa.
helping us tremendously. And so we've got the latest Monksterversaries. And as soon as I hear the music, sober. Okay. Today we'd like to recognize the great Monksters out there that are making it happen. Soberversaries. Jennifer M, 600 days. David E, 14 days. Nice.
Wow. Keep going, David.
Keep it up, man. Amanda H with the big 3-0, 30 days.
Oh.
I thought I was going to say years.
30 years. Jesus.
30 days is
30 days
huge.
is great, too.
Because you get a new kind of chip or a coin if you do that stuff.
Right.
Greg B.
Your bowels go back to normal.
That's right. Greg B with 1 year.
All right.
Talawa Mama.
Oh, yeah.
Talawa Mama. 4 years. Congratulations.
I was just hiking with her in the woods the other day.
Oh, is that went to...
yes.
Yes. Awesome. Congratulations.
Yes,
4
that's
years
awesome.
is huge. It's your college degree from addiction. You get 4 years and
Wow,
you get a
dude.
diploma.
That just blew my mind.
Yeah, man. 4 years. And finally, Jelly C with how many years? 30.
50. What?
Oh, you
How
were
many?
close. 30.
30.
Amazing.
Holy shit.
That's amazing. So congratulations,
I haven't
Monsters.
done anything consistently for 30 years.
No way. Just to fail. That's me. Failing for 30 years and disappointing my parents. So congratulations, everybody. You exemplify what it means to be a Monkster and making it happen every day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you see them on the Facebook group, drop them a congratulations, a thumbs up. Keep it going.
That's my favorite part of the show is hearing success.
Yeah.
It
makes it all worthwhile.
It really, really does.
And I did have one more thing to say. This episode is brought to you by Recovery in the Middle Ages Patreon. I'm not going to do a huge thing on this. Go to patreon.com/recovery in the Middle Ages. The Monksters are hanging out. There's some video episodes, some interviews. We have a Discord chat that it's pretty cool. It's a really tight-knit group.
I'm into it.
We are recovering together. In fact, those that are on the Discord met up for a Monkster meetup in California. And so we're having fun there. That's patreon.com/recovery in the Middle Ages. And visit us at middleagesrecovery.com. We're working on another website, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and more. Come hang out with us. Get us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. So tweet us at twatux. I mean,
what the fuck is it? Oh,
X is Twitter now.
right. Sorry, I was reading a Discord conversation while you were talking.
How's that going?
Well, I see Ryan checked in this morning.
Yeah,
so
Rhina. So it's all happening there. So come say hello. I think I want to hear about this Monkster meetup because, full disclosure, I've been so disconnected. I've been so out of it.
Did you even know I was in California until I reminded you?
I knew you were at some point going to California, but when you tell me like, oh, we did this meetup, I'm completely like out of it. I can barely get my...
I sent you regrets. Yeah. Not a problem.
I'm so sorry, but it sounds like a great time. What happened?
Okay.
Give us the skinny.
So I decided to combine this sort of thing with my son going to see a couple of colleges, right? Because I figure, that gives me a reason to go out there and I can kill two birds with one stone. And I give Jack and Ben a little vacation. They each got a day off from school.
Oh, cool.
So we flew out there and we landed like 9 at night and drove to, where did we drive to? Santa Cruz. This is pre-Monkster meetup, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just gonna hit this. And the funny thing is I'm walking off the plane and I'm totally stressed out because I got to rent a car now. I got to get in the car. I got to drive to a town that I've never been to in the dark. Yeah. And know I'm not going to sleep well. And then the next morning I got to do all this shit. And I was like, man, you know what would really help with this anxiety? I said to myself, a couple of beers at the airport.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm thinking to myself, imagine that. You go and you drink a couple of beers. I'll go drink a couple of beers, or I'll sneak a couple of drinks, and then I'll go to the Monkster meetup the next
that'll
day.
be perfect.
And, there won't be any cognitive dissonance flopping around in the mind, Can you imagine?
Just so into that, yeah.
So right there, the fact that we do this little thing, this little podcast, and have this little group saved me probably from drinking a couple of beers,
it's an accountability. It's like, that's... and I've been there.
But I care, and Grant and I had a conversation about this over the last. Grant and I had some really good conversations. That guy is the salt of the fucking earth.
Yeah.
Man. He's
I love Grant.
And it's funny, when I met him and we started walking around UC Berkeley, because he met us there and kind of accompanied us for the self-guided tour we were doing. And, I started talking to him. It's like, man, I feel like I've known this guy for like 50 years. It's like, it's crazy. Yeah. It's, and then the next day he was like, yeah, and I would love to meet Nat in person. And I was like, what?
Well, yeah, it's weird.
You've not met Nat in person?
Yeah, we've just, and it is so cool. We've got all these friends that we made just by doing this.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but I mean, there's people you meet, and then there's people you meet, and the level of hospitality and warmth that Grant extended to me and my family was just like,
that's so cool.
It was amazing. So we finished up down at UC Santa Cruz. We went to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Then we drove up to San Francisco, checked into the hotel. And then the next morning we went out to Berkeley because Jack was looking at UC Berkeley. We met up with Grant, and then we met up with another Monkster. And since I don't have his permission to use his name on the podcast, I'm just going to call him Jay. And Jay had reached out to both myself and to Grant and asked, hey, I'd like to be part of this thing. Maybe not maybe I'll meet you for dinner because his daughter goes to UC Berkeley. So we met up with him. We had some Thai food with him, and just another really super guy.
That's awesome.
Got a great story. So that was cool. And then the next day we got up and piled into, Grant drove us back from Berkeley back to San Francisco, and on the way back we stopped and we drove around the city. He took us around. He took me to the Grateful Dead house. I had my picture taken in front of the house that the Dead lived on at 710 Ashbury.
That's so cool, and
that was awesome. And my kids, of course, are like, "Why are we standing in front of this random house?"
The woman inside looks confused and scared.
Oh, she's got to. If you buy a house like that, the history, and there's going to be a bunch of freaks sitting on your front stoop for years. But they eventually,
like the Bill Wilson house or the Dr. Bob.
But the Dr. Bob house is an actual museum.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
it's not just someone's house.
It's not somebody's house. San Francisco is a different ballgame. So in true California fashion, they put a gate at the end, at the bottom of the stairs, so you can't sit on the stairs anymore.
Nice.
And then we drove around a couple other sites, went back to the hotel. And then the next day we got up and we headed out to Marin County where the redwoods are.
Oh.
Muir Woods.
I've always wanted to see those.
They're very tall.
Yeah.
In case you weren't aware,
I know
the redwoods are very large trees.
Yeah, it's like a giant's forest where like the Jolly Green Giant, I would imagine, goes and picks apples.
Did you say the Jolly Green Gina?
Gina. From Regina, Canada.
Anyway, yeah, so we met up with Suki. You know Suki? You know Suki. Do you know Suki like I know Suki?
Well, I don't know if I know her like you know her. Certainly not in the biblical sense. We did meet.
Yes, okay. And she gave you a copy of her book?
She did.
Okay.
So it was really cool to meet her. Yeah, she was at the DopeyCon.
Did you read the book yet?
I have not read. We read an excerpt on the show, but the idea is I'd like to read it. We'd like to interview her.
Yeah, she wants to come on.
I
told her before Christmas.
Definitely.
Sometime before Christmas. So I have to get the book. She said, I would have brought you one. And I'm like, I'll just buy one from you. It's probably better that way.
Well, my copy is signed, just in full disclosure.
Well, I mean, I guess I can send it to her and have her sign it if I need to.
I don't know if she would do that for you.
She would. She seems like a nice person. Yeah.
I thought I was special getting a signed book.
I mean, you are special.
I am.
It doesn't, this doesn't take away from your uniqueness.
All right. I'll accept it.
So she was lovely, and I don't know. I don't know whose names I can use and whose names I can't. So
they were there.
Yeah.
It was really cool to meet the Monksters, man.
Well, I think I can say Chris because it's like random.
Well, you already did. You just
okay, I just said it, but I could bleep it out. And Tula Mama, I guess I can.
Tuala Mama?
Yeah. And
I met her at DopeyCon as well.
Oh, did you really?
Didn't I? If we're talking about the same person.
I don't know that you did.
I don't remember.
They're California folk, so it would have been a long pilgrimage. I guess Suki came out, though. So
yeah, that's what. Well, she was doing her book thing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was. We had spent a lovely day traipsing through the redwoods and just having really cool conversations. And again, it was like I felt like I knew these folks, you know. And it wasn't weird at all. I was like very stressed out by this thing. Like,
I can imagine.
You know, I'm like going to meet people that know me from listening to this podcast, and like I tried to not think about that when I met people. I was like, oh, maybe they're just
it freaked out too much. And I met a couple of people too at DopeyCon. I was just like, it's like, just don't think about it.
Yeah, right. You can't think about it, but then. Some stuff comes up about things you've done in episodes and stuff, and which is fine, like, because, they were episodes that I remembered, but, like, we've gotten emails before, they're like, the thing you said in episode 23, and I'm like, I don't fucking know.
I didn't remember what we said minutes after I said it, unfortunately.
I'm like, I never listened to once it's out, Yeah,
we're like channeling some higher self. During the show, I'm almost like in a blackout, you know, and when it's over, I go, I hope that was good.
But you know what's great, though? You know what I really appreciated is hanging out with a bunch of folks who, like, are just not interested in drinking or whatever. Like, you in the old days, you go for a hike, you come back, let's get a couple of beers, and just that's gone, and it's just this. There's almost this peaceful Zen-like quality of hanging out with people in recovery that is just,
that's not going to be a factor.
Right.
You don't have to even think about it. You're safe.
Yeah.
And you're on the same page.
We got back from the hike and Suki's like, who's getting a peanut butter cookie? And I'm like, man, that sounds great. Yeah. So I got peanut butter cookie and ate a really delicious peanut butter cookie in Muir Woods. And then we said goodbye to the folks, and Grant took us for the rest of the day. Like, we drove out to Point Reyes. We got lunch. Wow. We saw a herd of elk, coyotes on the side of the road. It was like a wild kingdom. Elephant seals, all this stuff.
Now, is that a result of global warming and the man's encroachment onto nature's beauty, do you think?
I mean...
Is that like, oh my God, we've taken over their habitats and now there are baby seals on the highway?
Well, they weren't... coyote, there was one coyote who was actually sitting on the side of the highway, and then there was others that were like in the grass. It's hard to describe what Point Reyes is like. It's a road, and it's a lot of empty space where you would expect to see animals. It's not like we have taken the animals home. California is so big.
Yeah. That's what struck me the most when we went there. Like, it is huge.
Yeah. And you could see a lot of sky, and there's a lot of water, and there's a lot of mountains. All the things that we don't have here on our little spit of land that we live on Long Island, But it was just a wonderful, wonderful trip. Good people, good recovery.
And it's inspiring, I bet, just to have that renewed sense of like, we're doing this together. These are real people. This is a real journey.
Yes.
It's really important. And it keeps us going. So you guys keep us going.
It was because I don't do stuff like that, right? Like, just fly around across the country to meet up with people that I don't really know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I had such anxiety about it, and that just all dissipated. Like,
the minute
away.
you meet them.
We torture ourselves like this, right? We build this shit up in our heads, all in our fucking heads, and really people are people. And it's just like a great, it's just great to meet people, to commune with people.
Human beings.
Yes. I always consider myself a bit of a misanthrope, but I'm starting to reevaluate that.
You're a people person. Can you imagine?
Maybe I'm a people person, but just to get there is like the hard part.
Yeah.
And especially when like getting there requires a 3,000-mile flight, hotel rooms, rental cars, all this other stuff. It's like that layered on top of the anxiety already is like,
yeah.
But a couple of observations about San Francisco. They've been in the news for the last couple years as being like some example of like a failed
what goes
city.
wrong.
There's like piles of shit on the sidewalk and all this stuff. And I have to say, I did not get the sense that was a failed city by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I had a feeling that was hyperbole.
I mean, there are a lot of homeless folks wandering around, but I didn't feel threatened. I mean, maybe that's because I'm a New Yorker, so
we've got 3 in our little town.
Yeah,
they're just part of the scenery, and they're people in the town.
But like we went out after dark, like 3 nights in a row, walking around. Like we walked to Chinatown, and there was like a festival in Chinatown, and there was tons of people out. It's not like people are like scared and sitting in their little hidey holes and whatnot. But I will say that one of the routes that we took that Grant drove us through was the almost said Kensington. It's the Tenderloin, which in San Francisco is basically
I've heard that
Kensington in Philadelphia, and what a scene! My kids were like, their eyes were bugging out because there were people like walking, like nodding out, and then walking in the street, like doing drugs on the side of the road.
Wow, it's that bad.
There was a hooker.
Oh yeah. Was she running a sale or what?
She. When I say she doesn't look like she belonged in Kensington, I mean in the Tenderloin. I don't know how that exactly. She like looked a little more made up than some of the like just your average crack whores, I guess you could say.
She looked like Elizabeth Taylor amongst.
So I said to Grant, I'm like, oh look, a streetwalker. Like I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
Did you get a picture with her?
No.
Oh.
And
can I get a selfie?
I was like, look, kids, it's a prostitute.
Sign my chlamydia medication.
But but that was like in Philadelphia and LA, like it was confined, to the area that it was in. Right, and so it's always been a bad area and so forth. But I wouldn't, and there was only like 1 or 2 piles of human feces on the sidewalk that I encountered. Not like,
it's like you have to bring back the middle ages shit shoveler, like the person who has to go around.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should bring that back. It could be a government job. You would have to get a certification that you'd have to pay the city for, of course, to get the right shovel.
Yeah, well, of course you have to have bureaucracy involved somewhere, right?
Shit shoveling.
But yeah, it was a good trip. Glad to be back, I guess. I don't know. I look at California and like to me, California looks like the future, and like New York kind of looks like it's stuck in the past.
It's cleaner. Like things seem to be working.
Yeah,
there's not a lot. It's God bless California.
Couple of Chris and his wife Tula Mama were. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, by the way. I have this thing where I can read something 100 times and I still can't get it in my head.
Tuala Mama.
Tuala Mama. Okay. They live in this town that a couple hours outside the Bay Area. That's like. Sounds like Shangri-La to me. It's like food co-ops and hippies and from the old days. And I'm like, that's where I want to go to retire.
Like what Ithaca wants to be.
I want to retire to a hippie town in Northern California and work in a food co-op. That's what I want to do.
What about New Paltz upstate? Isn't that kind of like that? I love
but
New
you know what?
Paltz.
Like that area up there, it's got such a New York vibe.
Yeah.
Still, and the people that go up there to like recreate, a lot of New York money up there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have that. I'm not trying to say like San Francisco is a cheap city by any means. And I don't know, maybe this hippie town is full of very wealthy people, but
it's just a different vibe.
The grass always looks greener, right?
As a rule, man's a fool. When it's hot, he wants it cool. When it's cool, he wants it hot. Always wanting what is not.
Who is your daddy?
Not wrong one. Sorry.
My dad used to repeat that to me.
Oh, so it was your daddy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He would always say that. It drove me nuts, and now I can't get it out of my head.
So what's going up with yous?
Well, it's just, and I hate to be repetitive, but, things have been, the kids are busy, so I am busy. The job is busy, so I'm busy. I have less and less time to myself. Wow. And I'm more of like a support character and have like all of these other people's lives, and then I've got my own thing. And it's been really cool to see my kids. They're so involved in so many different things. They're both in a play. And so, like, for example, today they both have to be at play practice after school till 6:00.
Jesus.
And like yesterday, Noah, he was on top of everything. School is getting difficult, especially for him in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
So he had like quarterlies, and then he's in the broadcast club. So he does a weekly anchor spot on their show, which is really cool. And then he's got, jazz band, and they're playing at Madison Square Garden next week. So he's rehearsing with the jazz band for that. I picked him up from play rehearsal yesterday to take him to his drum lesson at 6:30. Like, it's been nonstop.
When do you have time to take a shit? You could take a shower or something.
It's just non-fucking stop, man. But on the one, and then of course it's and then the regular daily life stuff, doing homework, seeing your family once in a while, trying to make my company work. It's just like it's non-stop, but it's all. I think it's good things, and I feel like I've been so non-stop, like my head is down, and I'm just pushing and trying to make things work. And trying to enjoy the moment all at the same time, and we're exhausted. And and my wife she's got similar. Same kids. We're in the same house.
Right. One assumes. Yeah.
On top of it, she's got her own stresses at her job. Their principal just announced that he's vanishing as of I don't know if anyone cares, but I don't know if you're supposed to say that or whatever. But they're stressing out about a principal who's just accepted another job.
Oh, no scandal.
No, it's just like, the teachers didn't like him to begin with. And this is just like, I knew it. Well, that's what I said. I'm like, well, this is great. You were complaining about this guy. She's like, no.
Devil,
No, yeah. Well, that's what it was. Yeah. He goes, what am I going to get? So, and I apologize. Last week I just, and when things, this company that I have, it's always like high pressure, everything is an emergency. And that's not even, like, I'm not like that. Which is maybe why I've gotten as far in this business, is because when everything else is chaotic and people are panicking, I'm like looking ahead. I'm like trying to be, and it's a lot. And I feel like if I'm too upside down in my head, and I didn't like to do the show last week would have been terrible. Just for you guys, it would have been an awful show. My head, it wasn't in it. So it's just finding time. And I'm sure a lot of you out there have, this kind of going on in your life when you've got kids and you're working and, like you've got, you're traveling for work. Your kids are, you have to go to colleges. It's like,
yeah.
So how do you not, which brings me to something to do with recovery, because I'm sure I would have taken a drink like a million times in the past, year and a half, 2 years, and I haven't. And it's always amazing to me that my first go-to, like it used to be, wasn't, fuck this, I'm getting a drink. So.
Well, what do you do when it gets when all the shit's coming down? Because it sounds like you're not taking a lot of nap time.
No, this is my nap time here, the hour we get, before the storm. Well, the way that I at least get through it, so I can sleep at night when I sleep, is I try and meditate in a way where, like, when there's so much stuff going on, I try and envision like a white light. And it's sort of like Zen Buddhism, like mind weeds. So I just try. This is when I go to sleep, so I can sleep. I envision the white light, and when little thoughts come in about the day, I imagine that the white light dissolves it.
Really?
All I see is the white light.
Did you come up with that visualizations yourself, or did that come from somewhere?
No, I just, because it seems like the most simple thing. It's a white light.
Right.
There was no imagination went into that.
Is it Jesus?
No, it's just light. It's just a focal point. You need something to focus on to like I can't focus on nothing like they tell you to.
Yeah.
Because that's what they tell you. I took some meditation, like I was trying to learn it, and they're like, just imagine a sky and the clouds are floating by your, thoughts. And then just wait for it to pass and look at the clear sky. But I just look at a light like it's the sun.
So you need to actively destroy the thoughts.
Yes.
Okay.
So it dissolves them as they come. But the thing that I'm focusing on is just a white light, so it doesn't create any special anxiety or thought. And that's been working. And the other thing is when my coworkers are panicking or my family about something, a deadline, or you forgot, I try and I have like a knee-jerk reaction to calm down when things get crazy. So I've trained myself when I'm seeing things going a little crazy, I take it back to that white light idea. I don't look at a white light in my head, but I kind of react in opposite form. So that's how I'm trying to like stay focused, to stay calm, try and be the steady hand, in the storm. But I'm exhausted.
You could turn that into an app and make some money.
Just look at a white light on this app.
It'll just be a white light on the app and use and little thoughts going in there.
It's great, but in the middle of all of this, it's a lot of really cool things. Noah's got a really big part. He's practicing for it. Was going over at 10:30 last night. I'm like, let's go over lines for the play. Just before we go to bed. And he really knows a lot of it already, and it sounds like it's going to be a great experience.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm excited.
You have an amazing amount of energy, considering I can't, if my kids were as active as your kids, I don't know if I can handle it. I just don't have the energy for it.
And Max with his, he's got these soccer games too, and his soccer practices are 2 or 3 times a week for 2.5 hours, starting at 6:30.
Yeah, I went through that soccer fandango. That sucks. Fucking
my
sucks.
God. And so he's running ragged, and he's starting to be I can see it in his eyes, And then, but I'm very blessed, and I'm happy that this is the things I'm worrying about. These are the things that are stressing me out.
It's not where to get dope.
I mean, because sometimes, guys, I honestly think to myself, man, do I miss in some ways when my only concern, my only problem was how am I getting dope and where am I getting the money and how can I hide it? That was it. That was my sole focus.
But the reason you were doing that in the first place and the reason that I was doing it is so I didn't have to deal with all the other stuff.
Right, because this is what was waiting for me on the other side. So,
well, don't tell people that. They'll never get sober.
It's all good things, guys. This is how you build a life. This is how you do things so that when it's all said and done and you're sitting in your empty house looking and tripping over broken toys and, the tumbleweeds are rolling through your house, you can look back and go, you know what? We really lived. I really, made the most of the time I had, and I'm going to do it again. Mm-hmm. And that's the time where it's time to start over.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a big fear is when it's all said and done, you're like, now what?
Right.
And so I feel like we're not going to have that problem because we've got so many projects I've been just waiting to do.
Well, I've been trying to sort of consciously spend more time with the kids because Dimitri's gone, right? And I can see Jack, 1 foot out the door, going off to college.
Scary.
And it's and the fact that Jack really liked the colleges in California, I'm happy that he's found something that he really likes, but I'm like, California's a long way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to see that kid as often as I would if he went to school in Boston or something, and, he may yet go to school in Boston. I don't know. But really the one thing that, when you're drinking and stuff is you check your brain half out, and you're only half present when you even if you're just drinking a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, now I just sort of realize how fleeting it all is and how fast it all goes and how the kids they're going to be gone. And it's it makes me sad to think about it, And so that's why when I got away with Jack and Ben to have that time, and the fact that Jack is 16 and he wants to spend time with me is amazing to me. And I'm just so cool. Grateful for it, and Ben as well. And it's just, I wish Erin could have went too. Cause it's we always have good time when you can get outside of your day-to-day responsibilities and just sort of focus on, just having new experiences together. It really, it's a good bonding thing for your family and stuff because it gets you outside of the crazy for a little while.
Yeah, you can all when we went to California. That same thing with the family. It's
you can have good trips, you can have bad trips, but you're all in it together.
Yeah,
that's the best part.
We're like a pirate squad.
Yeah,
sailing the Salton Seas.
The Salton Sea. Yes, the Salton Sea.
So anyway, but I am so grateful to be on this podcast with you today and not saying I had such a stressful week I drank.
Right.
Thank God for that.
That's right.
And thank God for the Monksters.
As stressful as it gets, that will only make it worse.
Yes. One last thing, talking about life and growing old and the cats in the cradle and the silver spoon and the little boy Blue. And the man, little boy Blue. He needed the money. Oh.
What?
Andrew Dice Clay. Little boy Blue. He needed the money. Oh.
I never fucking got into that guy.
He was terrible.
I was more of a Sam Kinison kind of, or George Carlin.
Yeah, I was just playing George Carlin for Noah the other night.
Oh, really?
Like this guy, he's like, Noah was cracking up at it. But just going back to, general aging, and this is the Middle Ages recovery, group. We are at that point where we have either past or aging parents and children getting to. And I was listening to Dopey, as I am wont to do. And
as I am wont to do.
And
K. Shakespeare.
The self-same podcast that we all listen to. But he was talking about his aging father. And, of course, he's doing shtick, usually giving him a hard time.
Right.
But, these are real stressors that, I'm having just seeing my parents aging. And, at the church this weekend, we were having the pageant meeting. That's another thing I'm doing. We're doing the Christmas pageant again.
That's that time of the year.
So I have Sunday school, and I've got a nice group of kids, and then it's the pageant is coming up. And my mother is, because each of the Sunday school teachers has to try and convince the kids in their class to be in it. So my mom's the high school teacher. But just to see, that she's not quite as sharp, and I'm being kind, as she once was, and it's kind of like you're starting to see the other people around her noticing and sort of being like, oh, yeah, well, she probably can't hear you, and she won't wear her hearing aid. It's like all that stupid little things that you deal with a stubborn aging parent, and all of those feelings that go along with it. I know you've been through that before I have, because you've got a little head start on me, but I'm just starting to really soak in that kind of anxiety of like, man, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
How are we going to deal with it?
It's
taking care of them.
It's a Zen koan for which there is no good answer.
Right.
You just have to sort of live with it and be present with it. And sometimes the answer will present itself. And sometimes, you have to make decisions that you are going to feel bad about, but, you have to accept that those are your calls to make, and you have to make them. At some point, it'll just be one parent and then no parents. So while they're here, give them the love and
and I'll never forget what my father said when his father finally passed away, Leonard, at 99, and this is only maybe 10 years ago. He was already in his late 60s, and he was at the funeral and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, Pop," and he just looked at me and said, "Yeah, it's okay." He goes, "But now I'm an orphan."
Right.
Now, I'm sure I've said that before, because it really struck me that even my father, this, archetype of a person, and he's just, but to hear him say that, even at that advanced age, even me seeing him as like the patriarch for him, that was his parental generation. And, just thinking of it like, now I'm an orphan. Of course, he's using hyperbole and being overly dramatic, probably on purpose, but it's...
Well, it drove the point home, didn't it? That's a good lawyer right there.
There you go. But it just really made me look at things a little differently watching them. And so we're grateful to have them here still. And but, that's part of the Middle Ages. That's part of what we're all sort of in for here. And it can be beautiful and sad, but it's also, that's life. And that to be able to experience every moment, not hungover, looking for your next dope, it's like, thank God.
Yeah. I always marvel at people that have good relationships with their parents, because when my mother died, my principal thought was, whew.
Wow. Yeah. And that's another whole side of this when you have a complicated relationship.
Well, and my mother and I never really got to resolve anything. And, but you know what? I've resolved it since then. Forgiveness is a process, I like to say.
Yeah.
And, I'm working on the process. My dad that was much harder, because he was a good man, and, he was caught up in a situation. I don't think he was able to handle all that well, but I think he did the best he could under the circumstances, and
Yeah, and now we're the generation that the next one is looking towards for guidance, and that is horrifying. They're looking to us.
We're not
now.
doing that bad.
I think we're all right,
I think we're okay.
My imposter syndrome is in full swing.
Yeah.
What am I doing here?
Seriously.
People look at me for answers, even at work. I'm like, they're like, you're the boss. I get that sometimes. I'm like, no, don't ever say that, please. I am not the boss.
I mean, I try not to be like so didactic with my kids, like tell them this is the way, this is what you have to do it this way, Like I try and, I'm much more circumspect about how I try and get them to arrive at a decision.
You might say manipulative.
Maybe, but I want them to consider like all the information and come up with the decision that I have subtly influenced, perhaps.
Well, it's like Inception. Did you see the movie Inception?
Yeah.
So like that's how I think of it. You're making the kid think he came up with it himself.
You're right.
You want them to come to the right conclusion.
It's a team effort, right? Because they're developing and along the lines of hopefully the thought processes that have worked for you are now working through them. There's a reason I took the kids to a RMA meetup and had them listen to me talk to Grant about drug and alcohol for 3 days, and drove up down the Tenderloin. I was like, drugs are bad, kids, and to listen to another adult who's not me, like Grant saying, if you do enough drugs, this is eventually where you end up.
Just having those conversations, and it's gone a long way for me with Noah, and just how we talk about it. He knows that I'm doing a show about he knows I don't drink, and just to have those honest conversations with him. Yeah. And the first time he says something like, I saw weed at school, or it's everywhere type of thing, instead of me getting completely apoplectic, calling the school, screaming, it gives me a shot. I'm like, wow, he's telling me something I probably would have never told my father.
Right.
And here's my chance to really talk to him about things. Yeah. And to give him no, smoking pot isn't going to kill you the first time. Being honest about what it really does do and what it doesn't do. And alcohol, thank God, their generation is completely replacing it with weed, for better or worse.
Let's hope.
Because I asked him, I'm like, what about drinking? He's like, nobody drinks. He's like, well,
nobody drinks.
He's in the 8th grade, though, too, remember.
Right.
It's
nobody in the 8th grade drinks.
It's impossible or it's really hard to get alcohol compared to you can go into the kid's bathroom.
Right.
And you can come up with a gummy. And so it's way more convenient for them. But just to have those honest conversations.
Gummies and vapes, you could hide it so much more easily,
So it's...
if I heard there was weed in school, not only would I have not told my parents, I would have just went looking for a place to go buy it.
Where can I get this? I used to smoke pot behind that very school. There's 3 trees that everyone would say, meet me by the 3 trees. And you would.
The 3 trees.
Yeah.
It sounds very...
it's 3 trees
like
all in
Lord
one.
of the Ring-ish almost.
Do you know the tree I'm talking about? It's by
Smoke weed
every day. The 3 trees. It's the path up by the next to the tennis courts, and then the football field. It goes up the hill.
No, now it's not a football field anymore.
Well, didn't they add a field up there? Where they got rid of the sledding hill.
Yes, and now it's... Oh, and did you hear the latest?
No.
They can't play football on it because somebody measured it wrong. It's not actually 100 yards. So there's your fucking tax dollar.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it's like not regulation or something.
You got to be kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding.
What the hell are they going to do?
That beats me.
Holy
There's
shit.
your money down the fucking hole.
Can't they repaint it?
I think they play soccer on it or something.
They could repaint it.
I don't know. I think they have to make it actually bigger. I forget who told me that.
That's terrible. Well,
but you know what? We just returned all those people back to office.
We did?
Yeah. People that don't know that 100 yards is a football field, whatever. It's Long Island for you.
So there you go. Now I think...
Wait.
What?
I had a thought.
Okay.
Fuck the thought.
No thoughts?
No thoughts.
Thoughts become things.
Okay. There's articles.
Should
we talk about the articles?
Is this considered recovery in the news?
Fuck.
Recovery in the news.
No. Just wait for it. No. Why do we even have that? Anyway.
Recovery in the news. Yeah. All right. Recovery in the news. Recovery in the news. Recovery.
Somebody in California asked me, like,
all right,
what happens after I...
The fade out.
I think it was Jay.
You do a fade out.
I know, but they wanted to hear the whole song.
It's cool.
I don't think it goes anywhere. I think it just does this.
Reminds me of like early 2000s indie rock. It's cool. It's like that's a 9. A power chord with a 9 on the end, I think. It's like a Foo Fighters chord. Dave Grohl uses that.
Yeah, it sounds exactly like the Foo Fighters.
Yes,
You're right.
That's with the
repetitive,
it's a power chord.
Repetitive and boring.
It's this. You have a power chord and you pop the pinky on the D string. That's one of those.
Right.
And it's like...
Yep. Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters.
Same chord
Whom
over
I
and
love.
over and over for 6
No,
albums,
it is not.
6 records.
We'll sit down and listen to a Foo Fighters record. I'll point out what it changes.
I'd rather have a drink.
And...
All right. So, so for if it was Jay who wanted to know, or if it was somebody else, it just keeps going on like that until I turn it off.
Recovery in the news.
Yeah. Okay. So 3 articles. First one is from Fortune magazine, that great repository of recovery articles. But it does have a Fortune angle to it.
Okay.
Apparently, executives with addictions are hiring sober companions for up to $4,000 a day for continuous recovery support. For some, they may be the key to preventing relapse.
It's just like hanging out with some sponsor guy all day.
Right. Oh. It seems to me that Alcoholics Anonymous has this model for much less money.
Yes.
Although you can't. I would imagine you probably could get your sponsor to go on trips with you if you were willing to pay for them, although that might be a little weird.
Yeah, that would be.
So they give the example of this fellow, John, who is a successful COO, Chief Operating Officer, I believe that is, C-suite title, at an agricultural company. But the stress that accompanied his success was fueling an addiction. The San Francisco-based executive, referred to only by his first name for privacy reasons, so we're
Tad?
anonymous, used both alcohol and drugs to escape from the high-pressure realities of his job for a decade until he had a wake-up moment. Now, what I found interesting about the article is the next paragraph, which says, his maladaptive coping mechanisms had started to affect my work performance and my personal relationships. I have not heard maladaptive. I thought I coined the term maladaptive coping mechanism for addiction, but apparently it is out there in the ether.
And I did hear it on an interview the other day. Someone else said.
What?
Yeah, I can't think of who said it. And I also, my ears perked up. I said, yes, maladaptive coping mechanism.
But I mean, that's quite a. I mean, when you lead a paragraph with that sentence, it basically, you state it as a tautology, like that is what addiction is. It is a maladaptive coping mechanism, which I don't know that that's the general consensus around what addiction actually is.
It isn't, and it maybe should start to be, because the more we talk about this stuff, the more we experience our own recovery and watch others, it really looks like that's a good one. Like, I really identify with that.
What is interesting about it to me also is that it's not a trauma-based thing, right? Because in the paragraph before, they say that this San Francisco-based executive used alcohol and drugs to escape from his high-pressure realities of his job for a decade. Not like when he was a kid, he had this horrible trauma and he used alcohol and drugs as a coping mechanism for that.
Right.
That was here it's like it is possible to have an addiction and not have associated trauma. I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into that. But
I mean, yeah, I remember like the psychiatrists and so on that I was dealing with when I was going through it all. They were so convinced that something must have traumatized me.
Right.
And even when, I mean, they didn't believe me. I said, I swear I wasn't abused. Maybe there's trauma. And we talked about like the scale of what's
scale
really
of trauma. Yeah.
Right. And so, so when there's no trauma, this sort of, kind of answers that query.
Yeah, like if you're like a naturally high-strung person, you suffer from an anxiety disorder, perhaps.
Right here. Yeah.
You use this stuff, as a self-medication, and there may be no trauma. I'm sure in a lot of cases there are. But then, so the next paragraph, he spent nearly 5 months in a substance abuse treatment center.
Wow,
that seems like a longer time than usual.
Yeah,
right.
Yep, that's a higher level of care, as they would say. But
he had a so-called sober companion by his side the entire time. So this guy went to rehab with him? That's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's been working with his sober companion for 1.5 years now, and he believed that having one a sober companion, helped add structure to his days and taught him to enjoy life without substances. So it's just like a buddy that
like
you
a coach.
pay $1,000 plus a day to hang out with you.
I've heard celebrities do this. You hear about this on where celebrities will have someone that, but usually it's not a self-appointed. It's not one that was hired by the person. You would hear a lot about, a guy on a basketball team needs someone to follow him around so he doesn't.
Yeah.
But this is.
But apparently it's a business. So there's this Apex Coaching Partners or whatever. This guy who founded this company has been sober for 32 years and he's been a sober companion for 22. And I guess there's companies that you can find that will provide you with a sober companion. First order of business with a client is establishing goals, which can be as basic as personal hygiene, proper diet, and daily exercise, along with other daily practices to reinforce abstinence or recovery. We identify triggers and develop plans to diminish their effect. So it sounds like you're just basically hiring someone to give you 24 hours of recovery a day.
Yeah, and be your parent, basically.
Now, let's stop for a moment to think about who can afford this kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
It's a very rarefied group of wealthy people who can afford to pay somebody to follow them around and make sure they don't do drugs.
Yeah, it's the same people with nicer cars with massage seats, and they also get 24/7 recovery coaches.
I know. I don't know, man. It doesn't seem like it's something you could expand to the general population, unless you want to consider a sponsor in AA to be a sober coach. Somebody you got to call. And,
I think that's kind of what they try and do with it from AA. The sobers who are really overbearing, the really serious sponsors that we typically complain about, they're kind of trying to do that. Control the person's life, not spend the whole day with
person's
them.
Life, right?
Yeah, give them structure, and then they always talk about the big book. My sponsor used to call it a design for living. In other words, they're trying to learn a new way to live.
Well, and much like AA sponsors, personal sober companions are not regulated by any organization, and becoming one doesn't require a certification, which can make finding a qualified one, I don't know how you would even determine if one was qualified, a challenge. And given the lack of credentialing, most people find one through recommendations from friends, though they can also be found online. This industry has exploded in the past 2 decades. What began as a solution to keep an actor on a film or a musician on the road sober has developed into a practice that can and does benefit all, or all that can afford a sober companion, I guess.
Yeah.
If the low end is $900 a day, I'm starting to think I'm in the wrong line of work.
Yeah. Yep. But then you got to spend all day with these people. I mean, maybe that's not enough money to deal with this.
Well,
Think about that sober companion. I mean, that sounds like a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you're the person that you're babysitting is really into recovery, then I'm sure it's a little easier than if you're just trying to keep some guy from sneaking out of the hotel room to do drugs.
Yeah.
I
mean,
but I guess, what's his name? Had one for a while. The guy who just unfortunately passed away, Matthew Perry.
And that happened while we were off.
That happened while we were off. Yeah. Very sad for Matt and his family. I think when we reviewed that book, both of us were kind of like, I don't know if this guy's got, They
didn't say that he overdosed.
No.
But drowning in a jacuzzi.
That's a very Hollywood way to go.
Yeah. Whitney Houston and her daughter both passed that way. So there's something about...
Really?
She, died in a jacuzzi.
I knew Whitney did. I didn't realize the daughter did.
Yeah, I hope I'm remembering that right, but it was like really ironic. They were saying, she goes out the same way. Or
maybe it was intentional.
That could be too, but there's something about these jacuzzis and just health issues. I think they always warn you, don't go in the jacuzzi for too long. So, he had a long struggle. And,
the couple of pictures that they put that TMZ posted of him like a week before his death. He didn't look like great, but that just might have been.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently he was pulling down $20 million a year from those Friends residuals.
Wow.
Like that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like you can let yourself go for that.
Sure. Yeah.
a little bit.
What's the difference?
But God bless that guy. The thing is, like, he said that he was going to be remembered for Friends, but what he really wanted to be remembered for was his activity trying to get people sober,
really,
and helping other people. So, and I think that's why he wrote the book. And, I feel bad about kind of trashing the book as just a Hollywood piece of fluff, and I didn't realize this guy had started he started a rehab and all this other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I did realize that and I just didn't highlight it in the review of the book. So I feel kind of bad about that, but rest in peace, Matty. You tried, you never gave up. And that's the thing. You just keep throwing yourself at it and hopefully it sticks. It must be really hard if you have $20 million, everything you ever wanted.
Yeah. Now what?
Right.
And now what? And what happens when you have all that success? I was just watching the documentary Sly about Sly Stallone's life.
Oh, yeah?
And he says it's really interesting. It's really well done. He is a way more complicated person than I thought. And I've heard that before, but I didn't believe it until I watched this thing. The way he internalizes the story of Rocky to this day, it's so close to his heart. You can see it in his eyes when he's describing. He talks about the characters like they're people he knew. It's really interesting.
That's a little weird.
Yeah. You should watch this. It's very interesting. It makes you want to watch Rocky again because I didn't realize how much thought went into each and every scene and the way the characters, how they interact. Like, he really thought this through. This was not just like, I want to make a boxing movie. It was like, it's very interesting. But what he said, was he became famous and rich so quickly after Rocky. And he was saying, like, what do you do when you supposedly have reached all of your wildest dreams and it's not what you thought it was.
Right.
You're still not happy. You still don't feel fulfilled. Then what?
Then you do drugs.
Right. You get wasted all the time. He didn't talk much about drugs, but I didn't watch the entire thing. I just caught the first half an hour. But I mean, I'm sure Matthew Perry maybe had some kind of similar, like, you get to the top of the mountain and there's a Starbucks there and you're like, fuck. I'm like, great. I'm not the first.
I was thinking about that the other day, like when you're a musician, right? Like somebody posted on Facebook they were going to see the Beach Boys, right?
Me, I went to see the Beach Boys. It was someone else.
The other day?
No, like back in.
Oh, this is like a couple days ago.
No,
but I'm thinking like these rock and rollers, like Jimmy Page, for example, like he's 79 years old and they're still asking him when Led Zeppelin is getting back together, right?
The Stones just put a new record out.
The Stones every rule's got an exception, right? The Stones are the exception.
Look at them.
They're not even human.
He's 80.
Yeah, and I want to go see them. I want to bring the kids to see them next summer.
I was listening to the album. It's like
good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I was angry that it was good.
I know.
What
right?
the fuck?
How much success can one
stop it?
But I was thinking, like, you're a rock star. You have your biggest hit when you're 21, 22 years old, and then for the rest of your fucking life, every time you go out on a stage with a guitar, you have to play that fucking song, or else people are disappointed in you. Or
you could be Weird Al Yankovic, and when you play a show, you completely refuse to play anything anyone wants to hear.
Yeah, but that was a special tour that he did. It was a self-indulgent tour.
Yeah.
And did you have a good time? No.
So terrible.
There you go.
I want the hits.
You were disappointed that
yes.
Weird Al Yankovic didn't play the hits that he had when he was 25.
And the very best artists who last the longest, like Billy Joel and those guys and Pink Floyd, they play the hits.
The Grateful Dead haven't written a song since 1995.
Why should they?
And they're like more popular now than they ever have been.
See that?
You just know what you're supposed to be doing, But I can see that drives a lot of people to the booze. By the way, just as an aside, and I apologize for hijacking the middle of Recovery in the News, but Little Cheese has passed away. Little Cheese is dead. The mouse that my son had with the leg problem.
Yes,
he has gone to the big cheese in the sky. Yes. He was suffering, and one day, right before we left, we took him to the vet, and the vet said, "Yeah, we gotta."
I'm so sorry.
End the suffering. Thank you. Ben was actually quite broken up about it,
man,
because he blamed himself for not giving him enough medication and stuff. I'm like, listen, the minute that mouse got that bite on his ass, he was on his way out because
It's like a zombie movie. You get bitten, it's over.
That's it. I think the vet was just trying to placate us by giving us the gabapentin and stuff and saying, oh, do this for a week and see what happens, and yeah, I don't think so.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. Did you have a ceremony of a kind?
No, actually, I so weaseled out of doing this. Like, there was all this shit going on, and Ben's like, can we take it out back and just kill it? And I'm like, and after what happened with the rat in the garage that I ended up having to blast it with the BB gun like I was Charles Bronson, right. I'm like, I'm not trying to kill any more rodents. I'm not very good at it, and this mouse deserves better. So I call up the animal vet. Right, the exotic animal vet that I had taken him to before, and she was like, "Let me just." She's like, "Let me see. Oh, you were supposed to bring Little Cheese in 2 weeks after the first visit, so we could check on him." And she got kind of nasty with me, and I was like, "Well, excuse me, my father-in-law had cancer, and I was a little busy. I didn't bring. I'm sorry, I didn't bring Little Cheese in for his checkup." And she's like, "All right, well, I'll put you in for 6 o'clock today, but whether you come or you don't come, I'm charging you $100. So
what the fuck?
I was like, oh, okay. I hung up the phone and I'm like,
wow.
I've never done a chargeback before on my credit card, but I'm about to find out how that works.
Wow.
Because Erin got home early and she looks at the mouse and she's like, this thing isn't going to, I don't want it to suffer till 6 o'clock. And I'm like, I agree. So we called our local vet and the local vet was like, yeah, sure, bring it in. No problem.
Why not?
Yeah. So I'm like, I hand the mouse to Erin. I'm like, you bring it. I can't. I don't want to do it. I'll go pick up Jack at school. So the mouse goes. She takes the mouse in and they put her to sleep. And then after they put the mouse to sleep, they come out and they say, "We're very sorry for your loss." And they hand her a brochure for a cremation and urns.
Yeah,
and it would have been like $1,500.
So what kind did you get?
And she's like, you can keep the mouse.
She said, yeah. Oh, man. Well, it just shows you people and their pets, so members of the family.
I call the first place back and I'm like, listen, and I get the message and I'm like, so instead of like getting a live person, I got an answering machine and I said, I just wanted to let you guys know we're not making this 6 o'clock appointment today because Little Cheese is with the Angels now. I'm like, feel free to charge my credit card. And then I hung up and they called back and they said, we're so sorry for your loss. All this stuff, we're not going to charge you.
Oh, that's nice.
And then they mailed a fucking card to the house,
wow.
A handwritten card that's a condolence card on the loss of Little Cheese.
Wow.
I was like, wow. Okay. So I'm sorry.
So prayers for Little Cheese and
prayers
his
for
family.
Little Cheese and, well, we're Little Cheese's family.
Well, prayers for you then.
We still have Big Cheese, though.
You do?
Yeah, he's fine.
He's doing all right. He's moving on. Is he drinking a lot?
I don't know if he's drinking a lot. He's drinking a lot of water.
You should check on him.
Yeah, I should. He needs a sober companion.
He
Maybe
does.
I'll get him a gerbil.
Get him a gerbil. Or another hamster.
Yeah. So the second thing I wanted to throw in there for your consideration this week is I follow the Alanon sub on Reddit. It's a subreddit. You know how Reddit works?
Sort of. I've been doing it more lately.
So you join subreddits that you're interested in. And
so you go to Reddit. The subreddit is like, I'm interested in mouse care. And that's a subreddit.
There actually is one for
the mouse care. Yeah.
But the r/stopdrinking subreddit was very helpful to me when I was quitting drinking. It's a very supportive community. Mm-hmm. Somehow or other, I got onto the alanon community. And I don't know, because somebody told me that Alanon was like good for codependency, stuff like that.
Hank Azaria did a whole thing.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
That's what made me think about Alanon. Like, maybe I should explore this to get that other side.
Exactly. So I've been following it, and it's mostly people who are, are in these horrible situations with alcoholics who are abusive and all this stuff. And they write about it, and the people, give them support and advice and stuff. But then I was reading this one that came up about 2 weeks ago, and so what happens in Reddit is you post and you write something, and then people will respond. So this person wrote, "Anyone else get angry about drinking subs? This may come off as horrible sounding, so I apologize. Perhaps it's because I'm irritable today due to my Q," which is my qualifier person, and my Q and I arguing, or maybe I'm just pissy, but I follow the Stop Drinking sub as well as the alcoholism sub. I get that the community is uplifting and encouraging, and that helps drinkers not drink, but it's so frustrating sometimes reading all of the relapses that happen and then seeing responses of, it's okay, better luck next time, or don't be so hard on yourself, you're human. I feel like it just rubs salt in the wounds for us loved ones that have to be on the receiving end of it. It's like they really have no clue how painful it is, how horrible the abuse gets, at least with mine, how it blows up families, and it seems to get brushed off by other alcoholics just saying, well, you're trying. It makes me so frustrated I want to scream today.
This is why we have support groups, because of the Qs.
Yes.
Need it, because when the Al-Anon person is suffering, they're not in a position to show support. And frankly, that's what we need in order to help get the person suffering from the family where they want to be.
Right.
So maybe you ought to stay the fuck out of the drinking subreddit. Okay. Stay in your lane.
That's actually a large bunch of the responses were like, get out of those
you
subreddits.
Don't belong there.
It's not. Yeah. I mean,
it's not for you.
There are a lot of people that are like, I forget the term, like double dippers or something, or double luckers, who are in both Al-Anon and Alcoholics Anonymous.
You also have family members who probably maybe, but you don't go in it. If you want to learn about the person that in your life, your Q, and that's okay, but you don't go in there to further berate them for their disease, for their maladaptive coping mechanism. Yeah, it's a sensitive topic, and I see this a lot. I've been in many a family group meetings at rehabs, where they have the family come, and it's a lot of pride swallowing on the addict's part, and because you have to be sorry. It is horrible. You did create all of this, but and part of those family groups is to help that person understand that the treatment for this or the support is really what's important. They know they're bad. They know they've fucked up your whole life. They know they did all these terrible things. So the way to get past that and to grow is not to continually beat them down about it until they're bloody on the floor begging for mercy. It's lifting the people up. They're trying to. So it's very hard. It's a cognitive dissonance for a lot of people in the Al-Anon groups.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference, though, if your Q is sort of like I don't want to say a good person, because that's not exactly what I mean, but like, not an abusive asshole, because there are plenty of people who drink and are also narcissists and have all this other shit going on.
That's a whole other thing.
So I can understand why if this person's Q is that kind of a drinker and an abuser, then there's issues there that completely are outside the issue of the fact that the person is drinking.
Right. Then you're seeing other people support the person who maybe is physically, verbally, and has made your life miserable. Right. I mean, so it's complicated.
Yeah, but not every person who abuses alcohol is an abusive person. You know what I mean? There's people who are perfectly lovely and happy drunks who are still having an effect on the family and probably feel terrible about it.
Sure. Yeah. And that's why we talk about everybody is, has a different experience, and you can't paint a brush like all alcoholics are abusive assholes. Well, no, I mean, it's like anything.
Right. So, yeah,
interesting.
I just, that kind of stuck with me, because I never really considered it from that side before, because in my case, like, with Erin and with the kids, like, it was, there was never any real, like, they didn't even really know what was going on inside my head.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, I'll speak for myself. There was a lot of dishonesty to get away with things, and that was very hurtful. But it's important to see things from other people's perspectives, and sometimes that can be painful.
And I think Al-Anon is there to help you resolve some of the issues, like that, to deal with that anger as well, right? I mean,
all that resentment.
I'm not an expert on Al-Anon, but from what I've heard from Azaria, and I encourage everybody to go listen to Hank Azaria's interview on Dopey, because it was really sort of an eye-opener for me about Al-Anon and how Al-Anon is really for people who have problems with codependency rather than so much just having an alcoholic in their lives.
Right. Detach with love is a big one. My wife tried to go to Al-Anon a couple of times, and she couldn't relate because a lot of it was parents with their child who was in that codependent relationship. And so she didn't feel like there was a lot she could get out of it because it was a different situation. But yeah, the codependency. I mean, watching Intervention all these years, that's like the main thing in every episode. It's the parent continuing to pay the cell phone. It's like you have to detach with love.
I'd love to get somebody on the show who is deep into Alanon, because I'm kind of curious about that whole world. Because what's the saying? You go to AA if you're addicted to alcohol. You go to NA if you're addicted to drugs. You go to Alanon if you're addicted to other people.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
I thought it was interesting.
Yes. Coming soon to a podcast near you.
Now this next article is one that you suggested. I don't know if it's really an article so much as it's an NPR story that came out in early November about a new drug that's worsening the fentanyl crisis and complicating treatment.
Yeah, it's the next complicating factor, it looks like.
Yes, it's a veterinary sedative called Xylazine, which apparently is worsening the opioid epidemic because people are mixing fentanyl with xylazine and having a good old time.
So they're further adulterating what we used to call heroin. From heroin to now fentanyl, and now it's being cut even further with the more dangerous and I guess cheaper. Is that why they're doing it?
Yeah.
Drug.
Yep. Hold on a second.
It has a really bad effect.
Okay. So this Raul Gupta, who's a doctor working in the Kensington, Philadelphia area. We talked about Kensington on the show before and earlier. It's like sort of an open air drug market, drug using place. But anyway, they're seeing a lot of xylazine there. And I know we've touched on this in the past, but they're seeing polysubstance use, which is a mixture of stimulants and depressants, which has become the norm rather than the exception. And the depressant side is now they're finding typically is xylazine and fentanyl. Jeez. On the depressive side, and then meth on the other side. So
what a combo!
So the combination of xylazine, which they call tranq on the streets, TRANQ, tranq, and fentanyl together, called tranq dope. It's become more and more available. They've seen a 300% increase in deaths associated with this combination in the last few years, and they consider this a huge emerging threat on the streets. And xylazine is a sedative, and fentanyl is an opioid. So they don't have any way to reverse overdoses when people OD on that combination.
Jeez.
Because I guess the Narcan doesn't work for tranq. So,
and you're forgetting the most gruesome and shocking part of this. It's the wounds.
Oh yes,
it's one of these drugs that for somehow. That it creates skin ulcers. Mm-hmm. The National Institutes of Health, I was just looking over. I mean, so not only does it work like an opioid sedative, it also creates these sores. Xylazine, let's see. This is just some research paper, but do yourself a favor. Try not to Google xylazine wounds, okay? You cannot unsee this. So on top of this being this, really bad opioid that they're cutting fentanyl with, which is already going to kill you, it turns your skin like it's way worse than meth sores. So can you imagine, like you get these huge open wounds that they get from it. I don't know how it works and why it does that. Maybe someone can shed some light. But between the meth sores that you're getting and these wounds that don't look like they ever heal, it's disgusting. It's dangerous, and I wonder if this is the same thing that they had in Europe called croc.
Yeah, well, that
a
stuff
different thing?
Supposedly turned your skin scaly, and you started turning into a lizard person.
Yeah, it was the same kind, and they would become these open wounds. So now this xylazine it's getting so dangerous and so dark out there. We are a long way from the 70s heroin chic artist. Shooting up and looking like shit. This is like turn you into a literal monster.
Yeah.
It's so dangerous.
So, I don't know, the federal government's earmarked $83 million for treatment, which seems like not enough. But But,
So look out. I mean, the drug landscape is evolving, and it's getting scarier and scarier. And what I think is going to happen, if I can predict the future for a moment.
Please prognosticate.
All of this is pushing. I feel like it's going to push all of the hard drugs away from the kids because it's so horrifying. But all it's going to do is funnel them into this cannabis culture that may not be much better in the long run. And that's what makes me nervous. And that's my hot take, is that, cannabis being as innocuous as it is in some senses, the way that it's being produced, the way that it's being marketed, it is becoming all encompassing. You smell it. Even in New York, I'm driving down the road. Even Noah goes, I smell that Zaza, he calls it.
Zaza. I haven't heard that one.
It's that's troublesome. At the same time, it's not as horrific and dangerous and life-destroying at the beginning.
Yeah, but right? Do we need to start with harm reduction, or can we just not do any drugs at all?
Yeah, well, why isn't abstinence? It's I don't know.
Abstinence will always be a failure at that age because the more you tell somebody not to do something in their teen years, the more they're going to want to do it.
Yeah.
So
you just got to be honest. That's what I'm honest with Noah about what these drugs do, how it affects people. My own people I've known in my life. I don't go on about my own experience with these drugs. I mostly talk about alcohol with them. That's all you can do is hope you raise a kid who understands what this stuff is.
I mean, weed is everywhere. I smelled it driving home from the airport yesterday. I smelled it all over. I smell it more in New York than I did in California, which is amazing kind of weird when you think about it. But I don't know. One of the most effective ads that I remember, anti-drug ads, was it was this guy and his friend were sitting in a basement, and they were in their mid-20s, and they were smoking weed, and they were talking about how much they love weed and getting high and everything. And then, because you think they're in their own apartment, and then the door opens and you hear a woman's voice yell down the stairs something like, "What are you guys doing down there?" And the guy who puts out the joint is, "Oh, we're not doing anything, Ma. We're doing nothing." And the voiceover says, "Marijuana, it will help you do nothing too." The implication being that you'll be smoking weed in your parents' basement when you're 25 if you start when you're young. So,
and there's good research behind that.
It does tend to make you lazy. But that last article actually on Xylazine kind of funnels into one that just came across my push last night when I was thinking about doing the show today. In the New York Times, it says, a monster, super meth, and other drugs push crisis beyond opioids. Millions of U.S. drug users now are addicted to several substances, not just opioids like fentanyl and heroin. The shift is making treatment far more difficult. So we were talking about tranq and fentanyl on the one hand. This article deals with the combination of meth and fentanyl, which apparently is gaining in popularity. And the problem is, while there are medicines like buprenorphine and stuff and naltrexone for, blocking the opioid receptors and helping you with cravings for opioids, there is no medication that does that for meth and for cocaine. And the article basically says that while we've been focused on the fentanyl epidemic, there's this new super meth that's being manufactured out there. Super meth. And then cocaine is still lurking around in the background, and that we've taken a lot of the resources away from the stimulant side of the equation to put them on the opioid side of the equation. And it's fueling a sort of a new stimulant addiction period here.
So stimulants we
need to pay more attention to those. They do mention tranq, and but the people that the drugs that people are abusing on the street these days, in case you were wondering, there's Xylazine, Valium, and Klonopin, and older recreational stimulants like cocaine and meth. Dealers sell these drugs plus counterfeit Percocet and Xanax pills, which are often mixed with fentanyl. And the incursion of meth has been particularly problematic because there is no approved medical treatment for meth addiction, and meth can also undercut the effectiveness of opioid addiction therapies. Meth explodes the pleasure receptors, but also induces paranoia and hallucinations, works like slow acid on teeth and heart valves, and can inflict long-lasting brain damages. So while the Biden administration has been pouring billions into opioid interventions and policing traffickers, it has lagged in keeping pace with the evolution of drug use. During the 12-month period ending in May of 2023, over 34,000 deaths were attributed to methamphetamine and 28,000 to cocaine.
Wow.
So if you put those together, you're 54, almost 60,000 deaths from stimulants, and you juxtapose that against 100,000 deaths. Not that it's a competition, but it certainly seems like the stimulants are giving the opioids a run for their money. And why is everyone doing so many fucking drugs right now?
Probably.
What is going on?
I think I know. All of these people were prescribed, Adderall, and now that there's a supply shortage.
Yes. Well, that's really interesting because one of the things that doctors have been doing, according to this article, and I'm trying to find it here, one of the treatments that they do to get people to stop doing meth is they've been prescribing Adderall to meth addicts.
Yes.
Have you heard of this?
We talked about this briefly a couple of years ago. And when I think I remember hearing about this as a theory back when maybe we were doing Alan Haynes' book about it was Can America Recover?
Oh, yeah.
Evan Haynes. Thank you.
Yeah.
This has come up before, and I thought it was kind of a brilliant idea, but I wasn't sure it could ever possibly work because it makes sense a little bit,
because
right?
it's basically meth.
I think back to why was I abusing all of these stimulants? I had been diagnosed ADD several times in my life, and I experienced the symptoms every single day. So probably that's maybe why I gravitated towards those types of things because, on first use, you go, oh, wow, this is helping me a lot. So maybe that is to keep the dopamine up that's been damaged and to keep you focused.
Well, and like you said, I mean, it's not that is not working because of the national shortage in Adderall. I mean,
Right.
Some doctors prescribe Adderall to help patients cut back on meth. Wow. And then people who are addicted to multiple things are far more resistant to going into treatment than single substance users. That makes sense. Right?
Yeah, the problem with that is they're not coupling that with any kind of treatment, so the person will just simply abuse the Adderall in a lot of cases, and that's not necessarily better. So maybe if they could couple it with some cognitive behavioral therapy and some recovery, maybe it could work.
Yeah, that would be great. But what they're doing now, I mean, the article goes into a group working in Kalamazoo, Michigan, who are harm reduction specialists that go around giving out clean needles and even glass pipes and stuff. So you're not just sharing a glass pipe with someone with cracked lips, is what they say. But, so, they try and they've been trying to make appointments with meth addicts and say meet me next Tuesday here and we'll talk about getting you into treatment. But the problem is people on meth stay up for 6 days and don't know what day it is.
Yeah.
And so they're suggesting
they're not reliable.
One of the things is maybe after being awake on a 4-day meth binge, try a 30-minute nap, or we can get you a watch. So while you're out living your life, you can look down and sort of keep track where the rest of the world is. I'm doesn't sound like an effective strategy to me, but I guess
it sounds like
people want
to
do something.
Yeah, that's the thing.
They just can't. They don't know what to do.
Nobody does.
Yeah. So it's interesting is they pull a red wagon around during the tent cities in Kalamazoo, but when it snows, they switch it to sleds. They take the sleds out there and try and do the harm reduction stuff. So we'll put a link to all these articles in the show notes. I'm kind of ripping through them because I'm just noticing we're at about an hour and a half and stuff. But
well, tell us what you guys think. That could be a hot discussion topic on the Recovery in the Middle Ages Facebook group.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what you guys. This is one of those subjects that comes along that can be really divisive, but it also can be really instructive if we talk about it in the right way. Using Adderall or Ritalin to treat someone trying to stop doing cocaine or meth. What do you think about this, guys? Is it totally crazy, or do you think there's there's something to it.
Medically assisted treatment, just
Is
not
this
the kind that we've been talking
Not the
about.
kind you thought of. And that is Recovery in the News.
Extended edition.
Extended. The soberliningsplaybook.com.
Yeah.
Soberliningsplaybook.com. See Grant's articles. Hear from the great G Money Smooth on his weekly news updates.
Right on. Do you have a thing?
And now it is time for... What is it time for, guys? What could it possibly be?
The Week in Weird?
Week in Weird. Brought to you by Scott Wick.
Ah.
I just told him I would say that on every show.
Oh,
because
okay.
He thought it was
I'm
funny.
like, how did he bring that to you?
I was trying to... well, he always is telling me how much he likes Week in Weird, and we sort of backed off of it. So I said, look, if you help me get these articles and you're listening to it, I'm going to keep doing it. But he did not send me this article, but he promised that if he ever has time, he will. So here is my Week in Weird.
Any of you could send us a Week in Weird.
Yeah, not just Scott Wick. I mean,
Mike R at middleagesrecovery.com.
Send us your Week in Weirds. Bigfoot photographed watching man in Virginia.
Watching man? He's watching a man?
He's watching. Is he? I mean, it's a question.
Oh, okay.
We're going to explore that question.
All right.
By who? Tim Banal.
Of course.
A man working in a wooded area of Virginia snapped a photo of what he believes to be Bigfoot peering out at him from behind a tree, and later that evening recorded some eerie howls that he also suspects came from Sasquatch.
Do we have any eerie howls?
There's a little video here. I may try and play it at risk to
You have to hold it up to your microphone, though.
The remarkable case, let's see. The remarkable case, which came to light this week.
When I heard the first growl, I looked and seen it through the brush, and it growled again. That's when I seen it leaning out and went back behind the brush. Then it turned around and walked back the way it came and walked up the ridge. It was bipedal, no doubt. It was walking kind of hunched over. Let me tell you, it's a genuine photo, and there is something in the photo. Here is the original image of the suspect.
Okay, and
is this guy from Canada?
Before the creature went back into the cover,
the suspect
and made its way up over the ridge. Harley zoomed in with his phone and estimated it was over 100 yards away.
Okay.
Zoom in 200% and run the image.
All right, I'm screenshotting that, and we're going to pull. We'll put it on the Facebook group. The remarkable case, which came to light this week by way of the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, it's a real thing, is said to have occurred in a forested area of the state known as Lick Fork.
Lick Fork.
That is known as
Lick the Fork.
Like Lick the Fork. Around 3 years ago, when the witness identified as Harley was, that was, you were just hearing from Harley.
That was Harley.
That was Harley,
right.
working at a sawmill. According to the man, while grabbing a drink from his truck,
First drink or
during a break,
Okay.
doesn't say what it was, he heard an unsettling growl from the nearby tree line. After hearing the sound a second time, he glanced over at the area, and he was astounded to see a large, dark figure watching him from behind a tree. When I would look, it would hide, Harley recalled, though noted that, luckily I got a picture. Now, you know he doesn't sound like that.
He doesn't sound like that.
But you have to do that accent with it.
Yeah.
Although he initially thought that the possible creature could have been a bear, the witness insists that, quote, the way it acted and moved convinced him that this was not the case. Later that evening, Harley's experience became even weirder when he heard a series of haunting howls emanating from the nearby woods.
Harley was on mushrooms, wasn't he?
Fortunately, he managed to capture the sounds, which can be heard in the video above, with his phone. Oh, I didn't get to that part. Amazingly, in addition to the photo as well as the recordings, the witness also found several sizable prints in the area a few days later.
I thought you were going to say poops.
What do you think? And you know what? I'm going to post this video on the, where should I post it so you can see it?
I don't know. Facebook.
Go to the Facebook group at Recovery in the Middle Ages. I'm going to post this link the minute we get off the show, and you can think for yourself and let us know if it's a Sasquatch.
Think for yourself.
And that, my friends, is Week in Weird. Well, that about does it for today. I know I had a great time. Did you?
Yes, I can't believe I stayed awake for the whole thing.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. Visit us at Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, Twitter.
Don't go to the website.
Tweet us at Twat. You twit. Support your favorite show.
I was handing out stickers, like RMA stickers, and someone took one and looked at it and was like, you don't have, it doesn't say podcast on here anywhere, and you don't have a URL. And I'm like, we're aggressively trying to get people not to listen to the show.
Our marketing department is fired. Support your favorite show, guys. Please leave us a review. We need stuff to read. We want to hear from you. We want to know.
We really do.
We want to know what you're thinking, but only if it's positive.
No. I want negative thinking as well.
Okay, fine.
All kinds of thinking are welcome here.
We're also at patreon.com/recovery in the Middle Ages for a higher level of recovery support. It's a tight-knit Monkster community. We call it the Inner Sanctum. Come join us. I think we have like a $3 a month thing. It's just sort of like going to your favorite meeting and dropping a couple bucks in the basket. And finally, the best way to help the show is to share it with a friend. If you have an alcoholic in your life that just won't listen to reason, maybe he'll listen to us.
Oh, God help him.
Help us grow the RMA movement and keep it up out there, guys. It is so great to hear from all of you who are recovering with us and getting so many years. Again, congrats, Alan.
Congrats.
You're fucking amazing. Yeah. You're a testament to what is possible in this life. Keep it up. We love you. And as we say, non proficiat perfectum.
Progress, not perfection.
See you next time.
Have a great week, everybody, and stay fresh cheese bags.
Be good.
Bye.